Hi, welcome to Anime Productions, and this class unit is on design. There's so much to do with the design. You have character design, you have prop designs, you start designing your backgrounds. So when you get to your storyboards, the storyboard artist has something to reference off of, not necessarily reproduce or put in the storyboards. But if there's an establishing shot, he or she knows exactly what the image for the background should look like, the background plane. So there's lots to consider when you're thinking about designing. You want to think about the character and the environment. You want to think about how the environment it affects the character. That's the right word. You have to think of the character traits of either the city and the character, the human character or the animal character or the mythological character that you're creating. They have to have specific traits for each and every one of them. I mean, if they're twins or a doppelganger, sure they will share, similar traits, but if you're doing a character like a Sailor Moon, Usagi, she has specific traits. She's always late. She's kind of whiny. She at first didn't know how to use her powers too well. She was sometimes second guessing herself. There's lots of different traits that you can give a character that makes them an individual. So that's things you want to think about. And when you think about these things, you want to write them down. You just don't want to internalize them or assume that you'll remember everything about this character just by looking at them. So you might come up with ideas that are brilliant, but you let them pass. You forgot about them. They floated away. They might not be as great as they are when you remember them. But if you've written it down before, you have that reference, so you're not second guessing yourself and you're not trying to remember, oh, what was this character supposed to be doing, or the way that they react to things. You'll also want to write down if they're proactive in their storyline, or are they reactive, meaning proactive meaning they take charge, they do things, they make things happen, or reactive is that they react to the situation. You might want to Google what does reactive mean and proactive, just so you can get a better understanding of these terms if you don't know what they mean. In Japan, they put down blood types that supposedly determines different characters' personalities. Some creators, they put down their date, their birth date, their birth signs. They state hair color and whatnot, but they don't start coloring just yet in the design stage. In the design stage, you just want to get down the image. You want to maybe get down the personality. You want to start doing model sheets for the character. Once you solidified what the character should look like, you want to give them an expression sheet, which is different facial expressions from different angles on a sheet of paper, or a one sheet, which is just one single sheet. You could do multiple of them, but you want to start off with just the one sheet with different faces and different expressions of the character, so when it goes to animation and storyboard, they know how the character should look at different angles in a certain expression, or how they look when they're feeling a certain way. So every character might look different every time you design them. One thing you might want to keep in mind when you're designing, or if you're getting into the animation stage, is when you're using a mirror, uh, try not to draw yourself. You want to look at the expression or look at the pose of your own body in the mirror, but you don't want to draw yourself. I know that sounds kind of logical and whatnot, but when you're drawing, let's say your hand, you don't want to draw this hand. You want to draw your character's hand, but using the position of the hand, just so you can get down the angle or the perspective of the character. You don't want to draw this hand, you want to draw your character's hand using this pose. So you're basically rotoscoping or tracing over the pose of the hand, but not the hand itself. So when we're designing, remember that we're standing on the shoulders of gods. And what that means is there's been so many people who came before us. In Japanese animation, I believe they started in like the 1910s or the 1920s. So that's almost a good 100 years of animation that they've been creating. And Astro Boy's creators, Tatsuka, he's been around for a long time, and he's basically the father of anime. You might want to look into other creators. I love the old school. I'm into the Go Nagais. I'm into the Rintaros, the Katsuhiro Otomo. There's there's the Miyazakis of the world. I love the old school, but there's so many new designers out there, and uh, there's so much information online that you can reference off of. And don't think that referencing or even copying is a thing that amateurs do. Professionals do it all the time. You don't know how to draw everything. So just because you could see it in your brain doesn't necessarily mean you can get it onto paper the way it should be. So using reference of animals, of other anime characters, of weapons, of cars, of environments, of photographs, don't think of it as cheating. There's no cheating in art. You adapt to what you are needing. So don't think that you're cheating yourself or whatnot, because unless you're an architect, even architects, they do use reference because they analyze nature, they analyze objects, and they implement those into architecture. So everyone does it. If you're an artist, you reference one thing or another in your lifetime, and it's not cheating. If you're stealing, that's a different story. But we try not to steal. We try to be influenced and take elements from what we like and what we don't like. I think that's the best way to be an artist, especially in animation, because it's such a huge production. Even on a small scale, if you want to do it right, it's a huge production. Um, so we are standing on the shoulders of gods, since there's been countless designers and animators before us. We want to learn from them. We want to even copy them, but we want to move above them as well if we can. So if we're standing on the shoulders of giants, we are trying to reach a higher plateau and learn from what they know and elaborate on that and make it our own. So there's lots of copycats out there that, especially from like Chinese animation, that they would take movies like 5 centimeters. Not too sure what that anime is called, and they've taken 5 centimeters and basically rotoscoped the whole movie and called it something else and did a different dub on it. I will try to find that information for you, but right now I'll show you a bunch of characters that I found online on this Japanese website that were comparing one original character to a character of a different anime, both in anime states, but this person, I'm not too sure who they are, they were just some fan in Japan, and they realized that there's so many similarities and straight up copies of anime characters. So right now I'll show you that image. I'll try to scroll through it real slowly for you, and you can see exactly what I'm talking about. I want to cut this out right here. Okay, so as you saw, there's so many different anime characters that have similarities of each other, or they are just straight up copies of them put in different color schemes or maybe different clothing. So right now we're going to get into designing. I'm going to start a screen capture of me drawing on my Cintiq. I'll show you the tools that I'm using right now. They're not really elaborate. They're not expensive in one aspect of them, I guess. They're not new technology. The newest technology I'm using right now is my Macintosh that I'm recording this on. And I have a 15X Cintiq that I purchased off of eBay a couple years ago, and it seems to do the job well in this office. You know, I work on larger Cintiqs, but this is the one that I use here. It was maybe $300 on eBay a while ago. I'm sure you could find it complete on eBay for maybe the same price or even less. The one that I'm using now, I had to find all the parts for it on eBay. I had to find the stylus, and I also had to find the USB plug because they don't seem to make them anymore. But luckily I was able to find one online, and I also purchased a DVI cable from eBay. Actually, I bought the DVI cable from Wacom.com, and it was like the last one. So, last one compatible with this product that I found. I don't know if they restocked by now. But the tools aren't what matters. What matters is you get the work done. What matters is that you come up with characters that suit your need. Try to make them simple, but yet nice looking to the eye. And we'll start with drawing and designing some props, characters, and hopefully some environments if we can get to it. Alright, stay tuned. So I hope you know how to draw. At least if you don't know how to draw, you can just follow along watching the video. Right now, where I'm going to be drawing in is in Sketchbook Pro 6. There's a new version out. I just haven't purchased it yet for my company. But right now I'm just using Sketchbook Pro 6. What I have in front of me on my screen is a layout sheet template I got from Aja. And I've been talking about Aja from time to time, and I get a lot of information from them. I get templates and lots of anime industry news from them. So this is a template that they have on their website. It's a 16 by 9, and it's a standard high def template for your layouts. So this is a layout template, and the reason I'm using this is because I don't know, it looks neat. It gives me a frame already, so when you're drawing, you should always give yourself a frame, not necessarily just for having frame for frame's sake, but it beats just having a pure white background or gray background, and you're just looking at this blank screen, and you might be a little intimidated. Like, where do I put my character? How tall are they supposed to be? You know, you don't know where exactly is the ground. You don't know anything because you're dealing with a blank frame. Yeah, a blank piece of paper basically. So what I do is I use a frame, and I use it so I'm not lost and I'm not staring at a blank screen. You can turn off all these layers if you want to. I added in the time and these underlining lines here. I also added in the cut number. So this is a cut number over here. I added in because I needed to know what cut this is from. And I added in the frame number. So you can delete that if you want to. You could turn it off. The layer, you could turn on the layer. It really doesn't matter. It's all depends on how you work, or like how your studio works. I do it because I just need to know what my cut number is, what my frame is, and the time of the whole cut itself. So when I pass this along to an animator, they will know all the information without having to dig through a folder or an email or whatever other communication. They have it right here, right on the screen, and then from there they could use their animation paper along with this layout to animate the cut. So right now we have our blank piece of paper, and I'm going to choose a light blue, so it's kind of like a coal erase blue animation pencil, and we'll just start. I'm going to start thinking about my my manga store owner. He's in his 60s. He's balding. He has a hunchback. He's an older gentleman. I'm not looking for real accuracy at the moment or proportions. I'm just looking for ideas of how this older gentleman might look. Just laying down some baselines. The character design, I can almost guarantee that it will be changed lots of times before it actually lands on a production, I guess a production value. Like, how would you say, a production model sheet. Because there's, just like screenplays, there's lots of revisions that go into characters because you discover new things as you're drawing. And if you have a director and producer, they might not like what you're drawing. So I'm sure there will be changes in your character designs. Right now I'm just thinking about character. You know, he's old, he has a hunchback. He was wearing a button-down shirt. So the style of the character you want to start thinking about now when you're designing it, is it Miyazaki looking character. Does it look like it just jumped off the pages of one of his films? Studio Ghibli, I should say. Is your character from a different universe? Does your character belong in a Go Nagai movie? Or is he just like a character in Trinity Blood or Shin-Chan? It all depends on the overall look you're going for. Right now I'm just drawing an old person, not necessarily in any real style, just trying to figure out what this older man might look like. And I'm not thinking about color. I'm not thinking about anything like that right now. I just want to get down on character design. And this isn't very anime looking, if that's even a thing. But I'm just drawing an older gentleman with a cane. Now, the description of him fits. He's an older male in his 60s, wearing a collared shirt and slacks, and he has a hunchback. So, I more than likely wouldn't use a character that looks like this. He's a little, I don't know, a little cartoony looking. I would probably go for something a little bit more realistic if I was doing this as a production. I love cartoony. There's a time and place for it, but this is based on a real person, even though the names are changed. But I just needed to get down an idea of an older gentleman. So I'll just put him to the side, and I'll just add another layer and lock this one so I don't draw all over it. And keep thinking about this. So maybe originally he was tall. He was a slender man. But maybe he might be a chibi. Maybe he might be only like 3 heads big. So give him a giant head. Find a center. And maybe you give him some rounded cheeks. If you ever watch a Go Nagai show, the character always has rounded cheeks, a big nose, fluffy mustache. Might have a mouth in there. More than likely he wouldn't. Go Nagai used to have characters with really big, bulging, anime-looking eyes with hairy eyebrows. Big ears because he's a older gentleman. Some big old pupils. And since his hair is thinning, maybe he might just have hair coming out of the side, like Gargamel from the Smurfs. Let's give him an eyelid. Maybe he has a little pot belly. And his shirt's like not really tucked in very well. Has little chibi arms. Maybe his shirt is short sleeved instead of a long sleeve. Doesn't have much of a neck. But we could indicate that it's a college shirt. Some little fat arms, little rounded hands. To me, this is a little bit more appealing. Even though it's super cartoony. But it gives more of the look that I was thinking of, even though he's he's quite small. But you know, you never know. He might be a firecracker. He might not take any junk from people. Maybe he lived through the bombing of Hiroshima or Nagasaki in World War II or something. Might make him a little older, but maybe that's him right there. Maybe he just loves manga. So there's stark difference. They're both older gentlemen. They're both older gentlemen. They both might be in their 60s, maybe a little older. Both wearing a collared shirt and slacks. Hunchback, maybe you'll take that out. Slender, maybe not so much. But the design is there, and it's a little bit more appealing than this might be. But we can keep going. We're trying to figure out the design of the character, not so much following our guidelines, our text guidelines. But we're working through trying to figure out a look for the show. Look for the show. Character personalities. Maybe he's